Hello there, good evening, and welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. My name is Robert Kesakos, and thank you for tuning into the channel from wherever it is that you're managing to catch this. For those that have already subscribed, thank you so much, and those that haven't yet, please do click that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so that you can be notified when we do release a new video. Otherwise, welcome back to the channel and thank you for joining us. So today we'll be discussing why I think manager Erik has been so harsh on some players in the way he has dealt with it. Now, for any manager that walks through those doors at Old Trafford, they ought to be ruthless if they are to manage that club excellently well. However, in the exercising of their powers, in that ruthlessness, they also must be cautious to a certain extent. First of all, they must, like any other manager that's new to the Premier League or otherwise, must cozy up to the media. Now, once you have the media on your side, then you be rest assured that you'll get some glowing reviews when you get those results coming, or less condemning or less criticizing reviews and previews in your direction when results are not yet going your way. Now, as far as Erik is concerned, he had managed that relationship very well. I think the media did love him. They did love that he was bringing the results on board. Never mind his sort of shaky start to his Manchester United spell. That was to be expected. If you remember that Brentford drubbing that sort of had some question marks, but then he had all his players firing on four cylinders. Casemiro was a revelation. Marcus Rashford turned into a diamond. Um, and everything seemed to be going on perfectly well. So, but then, if you have noticed in recent times, he has sort of started to lose a bit of that control, and the media has sort of started whipping on him little by little, if you have noticed. Now, in his first season, he did manage to guide the club to a Carabao Cup trophy, an FA Cup, runners-up finish there, losing to Manchester City in the final, the treble winners, and then a UEFA Champions League place finish. But that UEFA Champions League place finish hasn't panned out the way any United fan had hoped, or any other football um, fanatic had expected, because Manchester United, after 4 games in the UEFA Champions League this season, have only won 1 and lost 3. That's beating up against Copenhagen by a goal to nil, a side to which they lost by 4-3 in their very last fixture. They did lose by 3-2, I think, to Galatasaray, and then by 4-3 against Bayern Munich. So the results in the Champions League have not been looking pretty. And guess what? The drum rolls from certain sections of the fans and the media very subtly have started calling for his head on the spike. And then here comes in the manner in which he has handled some of his player situations. You had the incident with Cristiano Ronaldo, you had another with Jordan Sancho, you had an issue there with Harry Maguire, and then David De Gea. What do all these players have in common? All these players were not signed by manager Erik so he has no soft spot whatsoever for them, or has not had any. What happened with Cristiano Ronaldo, we all remember his public interview with the renowned English journalist, that's Piers Morgan, that sent a shockwaves at Manchester United, and eventually he was let to leave for Al Nassr in the Saudi Pro League, where he has gone on to make a name for himself. And then you had his public criticism of Jordan Sancho in the aftermath of their 2-0 defeat against Tottenham. Now, some people have come up to say that Pep Guardiola has done a similar thing and possibly walked away with it, when he publicly criticized Joško Gvardiol in the media. But here's a bit of context. One, Pep Guardiola has more wins, or even trophies in his cabinet than Erik Ten Hag. So in terms of commanding power, Pep Guardiola wields more power, not just at the club, but also in the Premier League as well. Two, the context within which the two managers publicly criticize their players. For Erik Ten Hag's case, it was in the wake of a defeat. So in a way, it seemed like he had been blamed, in part, Jadon Sancho for their loss. While on the other side, Pep Guardiola's criticism for Joško Gvardiol came after they had even won. So he didn't really, it wasn't trying to paint him as the villain per se, as compared to, Erik Ten Hag in his incident with Jadon Sancho. And then, of course, Jadon Sancho came out to defend his name publicly. That statement was eventually taken down from social media. He was asked to apologize to the manager, something he declined to do because he thinks, or him and his camp did think that they didn't have any wrongdoing. He has been since relegated to train with, the juniors in the team and been put out from the first team. Now, then with Harry Maguire, we all know he wanted him to leave the club in the summer, and there was that deal with West Ham, but it didn't materialize. And so eventually Maguire stayed, and then fast forward, Manchester United suffered a couple of injuries. Rafael Varane, Luke Shaw, the likes of Lisandro Martinez. We all knew Taylor Malacia was on the sidelines, Victor Lindelof in there, and then all he was left with was Harry Maguire and Johnny Evans to defend his backline. So he had to field those players, but it's not to say he's not had his subtle squabbles with the Harry Maguire. Now, if you've noticed over the years, and if you followed football long enough, especially the Premier League, you do know that the English media has a way of protecting their English players, even in the wake of poor performances, in the wake of a lack of form, in the wake of things that have not gone their way, in a sense. So, for him to publicly criticize Jadon Sancho, who is an English-born player, Harry Maguire, who is always the first name on his manager Gareth Southgate's list for summons for the England national team, was a little overreaching, especially in the incident with Sancho. So we do notice that whereas some people did come to side with him, but to a larger extent, they tried to protect these players in whichever means possible for them. So manager Erik Ten Hag, as ruthless as he may want to be, he cannot over-exercise his powers in a manner, let's say, Pep Guardiola could perhaps exercise his own. So he has to tread a little carefully there. And like I said, he's slowly starting to lose, that causing up with the media. And largely because of the bad results they put on board. That's specifically in the Champions League. Never mind their Carabao Cup 3-0 defeat against Newcastle. But then you also had the possible takeover situation of Manchester United that seemed to be never ending, but at least they now come to, a certain agreement with Sir Jim Ratcliffe to at least take minority, stake in the club. But that prolonged situation didn't help the manager. And then you had all these injuries that hit his squad. Lisandro Martinez, key player, Casemiro there, also injured. All these are key players. Then you have Marcus Rashford that is yet to hit his form. You had Luke Shaw injured. Then Sergio Reguilon had just come, then got injured, and then just returned from injury. Then you have Sofiane Amrabat, who is yet to find his footing in the league. You have Rasmus Højlund, who is still struggling in the Premier League. You have Bruno Fernandes, who shines today and dims tomorrow. So it's not really look pretty well. But be that as of it may, they do lead the form table in the Premier League after, I think, accumulating 12 points from the last 5 games. So they do lead that form table, and then I think Manchester City, Arsenal, and the others do come in there. But they do lead that form table, and that tells you something about their performance in the Premier League. So it's not been decent, just they've been getting the results. but the way they've been getting these results has not been convincing. I think they've had about 3 1-0 victories or 4 this season, about 4 actually. They won, they beat Wolves by goal to nil. They beat Burnley by goal to nil. You remember Bruno Fernandes scoring in that one, while in the Wolves game it was Rafael Varane. You had Victor Lindelof, the one on the score sheet, as they beat Luton Town by goal to nil in their very previous fixture. Then shortly before that, they had beaten Fulham by goal to nil, Bruno Fernandes. And then you've had all these sort of skinny or marginal victories. You had the 2-1 victory against Brentford, you had the 3-2 victory against Nottingham Forest. So in general, the way they played, the way they've applied themselves has not been quite very convincing. And so it's left quite a number of questions for the manager, despite the decent results, because as we speak, they do find themselves in 6th place on the table, just 7 points adrift of, table leaders, Manchester City. Now, they can't turn the tide around very fast, as we all know the Premier League. You get 4 victories in a row, and suddenly you're either on top of the table or you're just about second or third. So they still have the powers on their side, especially in the Premier League, but things are not looking pretty in the UEFA Champions League. They are already out of the Carabao Cup, which they won last season, so they won't be able to defend that. That means they'll have another chance in the FA Cup. But after the international break, he will have it all to do to put his house in order. And if you did notice, their previous game against Luton Town, that narrow victory, was sort of on the edge towards the end of the game, praying and hoping for that final whistle to come much earlier than it actually came. And you could see the size of relief at the blow of the final whistle, given that he had secured that victory. So he has been a bit under pressure because he's managing a very big club. That's Manchester United. The expectations are always high, irrespective of who is manager. But I think he needs to exercise his powers a bit lesser. Again, we've had reports of player splits or dressing room splits over the way he's handled conflict among his players, with some players thinking that he has a favorite, that he tends to favor other players more than the others. So, and then I think about a fortnight or so ago, there were reports that he had someone to his players for one-on-ones to have conversations with them just to get a better hold of that dressing room, which he was starting to lose as per reports. And we've had all these rumors stemming out of Manchester United and all those things. So it wasn't really looking pretty for him. But is it the time to let him go, given the circumstances under which Manchester United find themselves in? Absolutely not for me. I do think he still needs more time. I still think he needs a bit more patience to put his house in order. Perhaps a couple of more signings could help, especially in that midfield, in the holding role to assist Casemiro, and then in that attacking midfield to assist Christian Eriksen, who is in the evening of his career. So he's oftentimes one injury away from either being 2 months out and all that and leaving United vulnerable. So I do think they should stick with him at least for as long as this season lasts, and as they try to get a few things right on both on and off the pitch. But yes, he has been wrong in the way he has dealt with certain situations, especially when it comes to bringing them in the glance of the public, because you never know how it may divide either your squad or even public opinion and the media. And the last thing you want in the Premier League is to be on the bad side of the media, because while they can cozy up to you, they can also whip you out of your job. So, but anyway, that's what I do think about our manager Erik ten Hag and all things surrounding Manchester United. Thank you for watching. If you have a different opinion, do not fail to share that in the comment section, and I'll see you next time. Stay blessed.